No empirical data to say it's saved anybody yet, but at least you've got a place to look up there and see if anything's dripping out before it fills the chamber up, goes down the clutch release rod and contaminates the clutch. This is an attempt to document Kevin Cook's excellent procedures on drilling the slave cylinder weep hole. And we're going to do small segments. We're going to assume you know how to remove the rear license plate panel and the rear tire. So we'll go ahead and get after that, but we're not going to video that portion of it. Excellent instructions where we go ahead and pull off the brake caliper as a unit, and if you've got a pre-2001, you go ahead and remove the speed sensor, because we're going to be sliding the rear drive off next. There's two bolts over here on this side. The rear one has a shoulder on it. It's unique, and this one doesn't have it, so just remember where those go. I think Dan points that out in his instructions. They are not interchangeable, and they will cause brake problems if you don't get them back in right. And the little 4mm Allen will take out the speed sensor here. And we'll go ahead and unbutton. Screw. That's, if you've got one of these, it's probably worth trying to remove that screw. And if you can get it out successfully, put a little anti-seize on it and put it back in. And I'm going to make a little, keep debris out of the hole. Might even get lucky. Okay, we can deal with that after. Undo the boot. Get it loose.
It happened about 20. And then the whole thing went out about 32.
Kill your cylinder?
Well, if there's a problem, it'll show up slowly.
Slide that off and then take these little clips off the tops. They just spring loose, and then we can put the caliper up and out of the way here.
The transmission seems to like
I've gotten old.
might be wrong, but my brain waves right at the moment are saying that's something about the way the races and stuff are pushed in. I mean, I've got 36,000 miles on mine. The only problem I've had was the slave. About 15,000 miles, the slave started leaking. I just didn't have visions of wanting to push an LT home.
On a side note, it's probably best that you loosen the other bolt first before you remove this one in the back like I just did.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to.
But I mean, it's like, it gets to the point
Loosen this
where,
one up too.
the switch on top that you turn it on and the little red light comes on, that switch won't make continuous contact. Press
Just
it
to get
down,
this out of the way.
light, and then press it on, the light goes out. Two of them.
There we go. That's out of the way.
After I've ridden in heavy rain,
You take the handy dandy
you would
little
think, well, rain is something that
magic tool, little stand that I built.
But,
I think I may have it. Yeah.
well, what I found is I had the switch
Exist.
That's cute. Little aluminum channel you got there?
Yeah, I just was in the machine shop one day where I used to run a little prototyping division and walked in there and said, these look like about the right parts I need. Took them home and made them work.
I walk into the True Value hardware store and stand there, we're gazing at stuff. The guy says, okay. Any wife that says it's okay to have two BMWs is okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
I got one.
Yeah, mine's,
okay with me.
mine's already said yay. And then the other thing I have to do.
Then when she agrees to taking her 35th wedding anniversary and spending 10 days on a motorcycle, so
I got one too.
yeah.
Tighten these down. What this little stand does is it makes it a nice little one-man operation. Once you get the rear drive loose, you just slide it out, holds it in perfect alignment. Slide it. The other side here. Get ready to bust the rear drive loose, and I don't know if you get enough light for that. That's the jam nut that holds the adjustable pivot pin, and we're going to break that loose. Make sure I get a good tight on it. Give me the 4-foot helper.
John, why and how did you cut your sides of your sockets away?
That'll become real evident when we put it back together. Make sure that's on there good and tight, and then it's going to pop. Well, come loose nice and easy. Okay, sometimes they'll pop. Jam nut free. Looks like there's no Loctite on it, so we shouldn't have any trouble getting the pivot pin free. And the pivot pin is a 12 millimeter. And that should come loose relatively free. Got a stub of a 12 millimeter Allen and a 12 millimeter socket. And that's what I use for popping everything loose. Okay, that's free and spinning good. No Loctite. Good sign.
Homemade socket.
Now we go over to the fixed pivot. And we're going to break it loose with the 12 millimeter. And we need the helper bar again. Nice and easy. Oh, this is going to be a breeze. Most of them aren't this easy. This comes loose nice and easy.
Don't say that too soon.
A lot of times they don't, so be prepared for that. If it starts to slip a little bit, stop. Get some valve grinding compound, put it around this, and what it'll do is it has some grit, and it will fill the gaps that you're wearing in this and make this nice and tight. Then proceed. Otherwise, you'll end up, you risk stripping it out. This unscrews.
Just going to bust it loose and retorque it.
Beautiful. Perfect. Pivot point on the bearing, everything's been greased nice. These bearings could be in really good shape.
Here's a bear. This went into the inner race of a bearing there.
Right. And likewise on the other side, you just I'm unscrewing it by hand. The other pivot pin is coming out. I love the fact that there's no Loctite on this. There is not supposed to be Loctite.
I was going to say, there's not supposed to be like that.
But some dealers will do it, believe it or not.
Okay. As long as they're properly torqued, you should never have a problem with it.
All right, second pin comes out. Looks real good, well lubed. Now we're ready to slide the rear drive off. As I said, we are ready to slide the rear drive off. There's nothing holding it. It just doesn't want to come out.
Turn it a little bit.
No. There we go. All right. Now the splines have come out. We'll align the drive shaft later, but everything looks good. That feels good. Bearing feels good. It's not notchy. Typically they're notchy. This bearing feels real good. In fact, has this been off recently?
No.
Okay.
Is this bearing?
Yeah. This is, it's funny, the rear drive I got from a guy was missing the inner races. I don't know why it was missing the inner races. And when I got replacement bearings, they had inner races that wouldn't come out. So I thought they'd changed the style of bearing, but apparently they did. But these typically, since they're a needle roller bearing, they don't move much. I mean, they're not spinning like a car tire, this axle. They typically get beat to death in a very short area, and they get little ridges in them.
Oh, okay.
And so often you want to replace them. There's a set where they provide a race and then an oil light phosphor bronze piece.
So you've seen various arrangements of bearings.
And I've put those on my bike just because my bearings were shot and I didn't have a spare set. But
You got those aftermarket.
they're aftermarket. They're about $119 a set.
Yeah. Oh, too. And they're pressed in?
And, well, 17 millimeter hole, 17 millimeter pin. The oil tight were a little tight. And the manual for the oil tight ones say put super glue on it or Loctite. But I felt like it wouldn't come apart if I ever did that.
Well,
so I reamed them out a little bit. I found out later that you shouldn't use a file on them. But
Nonetheless, you did.
in fact, I think a brooch was the correct way to do it. But I didn't have a brooch handy. So
Well, that's pretty big.
set it on the floor.
Especially when you got the special handy dandy.
If you've got a 5-gallon bucket, this thing will sit nicely in a 5-gallon bucket and hold it. You want it to stay upright while it's off the bike.
That's sweet.
So now we're down to the point where we're getting ready to start pulling the swing arm. We're going to be pulling this panel, and this. May or may not have to pull this plastic, but we got to get these 2 foot pegs loose.
John, the rearing failures have been in the hub itself.
So we're getting ready to do that. We'll assume you know how to pull those out, so we'll pause now for this and go ahead and pull these panels off, and we'll be circlip in each one. It's there just to keep it from coming apart in case it goes loose, and you just pull the circlip out with a pair of pliers. Likewise on the other side. Now we're ready to do some busting loose with a 30mm. Pop it loose. Let's see. Trying to get it to where I get the
Loctite?
I'll get the pipe to clear because I want to clear.
It says so well if you don't have a 3-foot piece of pipe.
Yeah, this is a real handy one. Okay, yeah. I'm going to hold this in. If somebody would like to push down on that.
Keep it going and don't stop?
Yeah, just keep going real hard. There we go. Broke free. Loud pop. Usually everything flies all over the place if you're doing it by yourself. Oops. Maybe we didn't get it. Oh yeah, we did. There. This is your
Let me
fixed.
ask you a question. There's obviously a torque setting for putting it back on.
Yeah, it's about 160 Newton meters.
So you gotta have yourself.
One thing I did not bring is a nice little wire brush to clean those threads good. I'll have to see if we can find one. Gunk out of the threads. If I was at home, I'd just spray it with some degreaser and spritz it out with the air hose. It looks pretty good now. Yeah, much better. Okay, I'm going to leave that alone. Now we'll go break the other side loose. That one is the fixed pivot, just like there was a fixed pivot on the rear drive. This one is the floating pivot, where you adjust your preload. And this one shouldn't be near as bad.
You going up with this one?
Yeah, or we're going back maybe with it. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, we're going up.
Ready?
So just pull up. Yep. There we go.
That was
wasn't
easy.
too bad. It's a whole lot nicer when you got 2 people.
The cutout in your socket, that's for adjusting that preload?
Right. In other words, we'll set the preload, and then I'll hold it in place with another Allen wrench, and then torque this to 160 Newton meters. And I guess we got to get the wire brush again, and clean those threads out a little bit.
Ideally, you'd do that with one of those little brass.
Yeah, a little brass brush, maybe some degreaser sprayed in there to get all that gunk out, just so the threads will go easy. So what I'm removing now is the jam nut that holds the fixed pivot in place. It's just a plain old jam nut, much like the other one. Now there's a pivot in there that's 12mm.